So I overheard at one of my tables this past week from a player, they were explaining to somebody that they didn't really have a character backstory. Their character was a fighter and a farmer for a background, and that's all they had. And there was this awkward silence after. I felt bad because I'm sure that player was kind of embarrassed. Like maybe they felt like they should have had something more fancy. I mean, everybody else at the table seemed to. Now, it's really not my place to mansplain to anybody how their imagination works, but I felt like I needed to do something. And I kind of wish I just had an index card to hand to somebody with instructions on how to generate an awesome backstory. So what I have here is a way to generate a deeper backstory for your character that will fit on an index card. And it is comprised of 4 separate backgrounds. You can go to your books to find these various backgrounds, but I strongly recommend you go to the archives of Nethys, and there you'll find a long laundry list of options that you can choose from. So we're gonna come up with 4 backgrounds, you guys. And the good news is you've already got the first one. It's over here on your character sheet. This is where the rules are. It's the one that gives you your stat boosts, any feats you might have or special abilities. We're gonna call that first one the identity background. The second one is gonna be for your character's setting. Third one is gonna be a major NPC in your character's background. And last but not least is going to be the story problem. And if you find this sort of content useful, get your grubby little goblin fingers down there on the subscribe button. We make content like this every week. So I strongly recommend that your 4 background choices go common, common, uncommon, and rare. What this does is this has your background progress with an escalation of events so that your progressive complications get more and more intense and interesting, just like a novel. So we're gonna start with the first background you have. It's on your character sheet. This background I'm calling the identity. So for this purpose here, I picked the farmhand background. It's a common background, it's in the core handbook. This is the one that gives you the con bonus, the wisdom bonus, and a free boost. So I'm gonna pick dexterity. I'm a farmhand. I need to be good with my hands. I need to be strong. And as a farmer, I get athletics, farming lore, the assurance skill feat. All of this stuff matters because it's going to inform my backstory. So now that we've made our choice, we're just gonna write that down here on our index card. Background number 2, the setting. Now I picked sailor background. This means there's gonna be a coastal component to my farmer character's backstory. That's kind of cool because when you think about it, you can have a farm in the desert, a farm in the highlands, a farm in the prairies. I'm gonna have mine be a cliffside farm. Why? Because you gotta pick a farm somewhere. So when you're looking at the background for the sailor, you have things like sailor lore, you have underwater marauder as a feature, strength, dexterity. These are sort of the values ascribed to that background. And this describes the setting, the place where my character became a farmer. So we already know I'm athletic as a farmer. I have knowledge about the turning of the seasons and crops. That's great. And now I'm living in an area where the values are more nautical. I don't have those values on my character sheet, but I had to live there anyways. So you have to make interesting decisions about your character's lack of knowledge while having grown up in it. So since we're going with the nautical theme, this particular background says that there might be pirates involved in this sailor background. Maybe you fell in love with the sea life or you hopped onto a schooner and went away. Now I'm already a farmhand. I've got land to till. But I live in a nautical environment, so there's pirates, there's sailors, there's all kinds of people who know great things about the sea, and I'm sitting here tilling crops. That informs my personality, right? Now, I'm a guy who happens to like pirates, and I bet you do too, so I'm just gonna pick that option, and I'm writing down pirates and scallywags. Sailor background on my index card. So moving on to the third background, this is the major NPC that had a major impact on my character's life, the one that maybe reshaped my character's worldview. So for this one, I picked the circuit judge. This is an uncommon background. This is a guy who travels on horseback from these boondocky communities, and he conducts hearings, and he gives verdicts, and people go to jail, that sort of thing. This background has certain values like intelligence, wisdom, legal lore associated with it. There's a lie to me feat that's attached to it. That's pretty cool. So let's say my character, this circuit judge was doing his rounds, and at some point he reached our farm, and how about he's there for me? I'm the criminal in this case, so I'm here doing a hearing at some point in the past. And well, what if that was the time that those pirates and scallywags we mentioned back in background 2, that's when they decided to show up. So they busted up my hearing, and cool, maybe I'm fighting these pirates alongside the circuit judge, and we fend them off and we survive. That's a cool story, right? So what we did right there is we just connected background 3 to background 2. Background number 4 is the story problem, and that's important because this is what your character, my character, is dealing with in the present day. For this rare background, and remember, rare escalates the attention, and we're at the peak now, there's something spooky and creepy going on with my character because I picked Empty Whispers. Now, Empty Whispers as a background is a occulty, spoopy one. Things whisper to you from beyond time and space. And these strange whisperings, these voices in your psyche, they guide your actions. So now we need to connect background number 4 with background number 3. So how did I get my haunted whisperings, these voices in my ear? Well, it connects back to the circuit judge in some way. And the circuit judge and I fought off a bunch of pirates, and that's how we saved the farm. After that battle, I started hearing things. I think it's reasonable to believe I got hit in the head a little hard. So at this point, I'm gonna write Empty Whispers, I hear voices on my index card. That's background 4. So now we have these 4 backgrounds written down on this index card. What does that do? Well, when the GM looks me in the eye and says, so what's your character's backstory? Well, I'm glad you asked. You see, I've got this fighter, and my fighter has a farmer background, but it's a coastal kind of farm where there's lots of sailors and pirates. And at some point, I just kind of engaged in some criminal activity. And this circuit judge came around and was getting ready to put me on trial, but then my farm was under attack by pirates. And at some point I sustained a head injury and I started hearing voices after that. And at that point, the GM and everybody else at the table looks at me and goes, that's a hell of a backstory. At this point, I'm excited because I had no idea what I was doing before, but I've got this great story and I'm ready to play. If you like this video and you want to learn more, check out this video we did on deep backgrounds. Thanks again for hanging out with us, goblins, and as usual, keep it weird.